Which begs the question, what are the four players that the Indiana Fever should core to make sure that no team can touch them heading into the expansion draft? Remember, you just lose these players straight up. You don't get anything back for the players. They're gone. We didn't get anything for Temi, did we? No, exactly.
The Indiana Fever just dropped some news that's really got fans buzzing. 4 players are gone, and honestly, the front office seems to be in full-blown panic mode. Now everyone's asking, who's next? But the bigger question is, how quickly can they rebuild and protect Caitlyn Clark before this whole thing turns ugly? Look, did the Fever just make a genius move, or was this a massive mistake? Let's dive in, because Indiana just turned their entire offseason into a total soap opera. 4 key players from the Fever roster are now unrestricted free agents, and their contracts are officially up. We're talking about Sydney Colson, Odyssey Sims, Brian Natturner, and Bry Hall. And for anyone saying, oh, it's just business, trust me, this is way more than that. This is a complete shakeup.
Shot clock down to 6 for the Fever. Turner, up fade. Turner kicks it. Hole three-pointer.
And get this, these aren't just bench warmers. These are the players who actually helped carry the team through a brutal season, dealing with injuries, fatigue, and so much drama. Now, there's a real chance they might not even come back. So, let's break it down. The Fever made an incredible run last season, even when Caitlyn Clark was out. They fought hard, making it all the way to the WNBA semifinals. They even pushed the Las Vegas Aces to 5 games, which honestly surprised pretty much everyone. Nobody expected them to be there. Most people thought they'd just fall apart after Clark's injury, but they didn't. They stuck with it, mainly because players like Sims and Turner really stepped up. But now, those very same players could be gone.
It feels to be back in Las Vegas.
It feels great to be back, but I'm going to pivot to something else. Callie, is that cool?
Yes.
All right. On behalf of my teammates and every member of our union, I want to be clear. We remain committed to negotiating the next CBA with the league and the teams in good faith and privately. We know that our league is growing, and we believe that it's imperative that our CBA reflects the growth that we've experienced in the league, and that players should be seeing part of those earnings. And so I am excited to be back here, but unfortunately there are more pressing things going on with our league.
So Colson, Sims, Turner, and Hall. All 4 of them are heading to Athletes Unlimited Pro Basketball. That's a 5-on-5 league in Nashville that plays during the WNBA offseason. If you haven't heard of it, AU Pro Basketball is basically a short tournament where players rotate teams every week and earn points based on their performance. It's competitive, it's fun, and it's a good way for players to make some extra cash between season. But here's the thing, when players go to other leagues, it's not just about money, it's about opportunity. It's about keeping their options totally open. And in this case, all 4 are unrestricted free agents, meaning they can sign with any team once the WNBA's free agency window opens. That window opens in February, right before AU even starts. So Fever fans are now asking, did Indiana just lose 4 of their most reliable veterans? And let's not forget, this team already has chemistry issues and a ton of injuries. They barely held it together last season after Clark went down. Now they're losing experience, leadership, and depth, which are the exact 3 things you desperately need when you're building around a superstar. And yes, let's call it what it is. Caitlyn Clark is the superstar. She's the face of this franchise, the reason arenas are selling out, and why people even care about Fever basketball again. So this isn't just about filling roster spots. It's about protecting your most valuable asset, your generational talent. If Clark doesn't have a solid roster around her, this could go downhill fast. And Indiana knows it. They actually have money. Plenty of cap space, in fact. But money alone won't fix bad roster decisions. Now, to be fair, not everyone's job is safe. Even Kelsey Mitchell, one of the team's most consistent scorers, has found herself in trade rumors.
Averaged 20.2 points per game last season, 3.2 assists for somebody who never passes the ball, from what I'm told. She averaged over 3 assists last year. She never passes the ball. You'd think she'd average 1.5, 1.2. 3.2 assists for Kelsey Money Mitch, and shot nearly 40% from 3, 39% from the 3-point line for Kelsey Mitchell last year. When her and Caitlyn Clark are in the lineup together, lethal, deadly, the best backcourt in the league.
Listen, multiple teams, like the Dallas Wings, are reportedly eyeing her for a trade.
Don't believe it'll happen. There is a possibility that Kelsey Mitchell may take her talents elsewhere, and we need to be fully prepped and ready to go to continue to build this roster out around Caitlyn Clark.
And if she leaves, Indiana will have even more problems. Trust me. It's no secret that Clark and Aaliyah Boston are the absolute cornerstones of this franchise. But basketball isn't tennis. You can't win with just two people, and that's what makes these releases so shocking. The Fever actually found a bit of stability last season. Despite all the chaos, they had depth, they had chemistry, and for the first time in years, they actually looked like a legitimate playoff team. Now, they're completely back to square one. You can almost feel the frustration from fans who've waited years for this team to finally matter again. What's even more confusing is that Coach Stephanie White's system hasn't exactly shown it can handle all these sudden changes. Her offense worked well enough to get them deep into the playoffs, sure, but it's not dynamic enough to actually win a championship, and history totally backs that up. She couldn't get it done in Connecticut, and she hasn't gotten it done in Indiana either. If the Fever really want to protect Caitlyn Clark and Aaliyah Boston long-term, they need more than just a patched-up rotation. They need a clear vision. The Fever have always said they're focused on building around youth. That sounds great on paper, right? Until you remember that half your young core is either injured or still unsigned. And right now, while the Fever are trying to figure out who to keep, other teams are quietly watching. They're ready to poach talent the moment contracts expire. It's seriously like watching someone leave their car running with the keys inside and the door wide open. What's crazier is this all comes during the most uncertain offseason the WNBA has ever faced. Remember, the CBA negotiations are still ongoing. Until a new deal is signed, teams can't officially move forward with free agency at all. So technically, no one can sign, trade, or extend contracts right now. This means the Fever are totally frozen in place. They can't re-sign anyone, and they can't even plan their roster until this whole mess gets sorted out. That's just the worst possible situation for a young team trying to stay competitive. So let's recap this nightmare. 4 players gone, free agency frozen, a key scorer possibly on the trade block, and a superstar who's recovering and watching it all unfold. That is definitely not the championship culture Indiana keeps promising, and the fans know it. Social media absolutely exploded the moment this story dropped. Some fans are calling it a rebuild, others are calling it self-sabotage. And honestly, both might actually be right, because when you release 4 rotation players before you've even fixed your coaching or contract situation, it really doesn't look like strategy. It looks like pure panic. The front office keeps saying they're confident in the direction of the team. But listen, fans have heard that before. For the last decade, actually. This is supposed to be the Caitlyn Clark era. This is the time to build stability, not blow everything up. But if Indiana doesn't act fast, they seriously risk wasting another season of Clark's prime years, surrounded by patchwork lineups and short-term fixes. And I'm going to say it flat out. This team better make protecting Caitlyn Clark their #1 off-season priority. I'm not talking about media tours, or catchy slogans, or jersey sales. I mean actual on-court protection, because last season's injuries were brutal, and she took a beating almost every night before she went down. If they don't build a stronger supporting cast around her, next year could be even worse. Let's be real. This whole situation feels like deja vu for Fever fans. Every single time they seem to turn a corner, something happens that just throws everything off balance. And this time, it's not just bad luck, it's straight up bad management. Because no matter how you try to spin it, letting 4 players walk when your roster is already super thin just makes no sense. Especially when one of those players, like Odyssey Sims, was one of the only vocal leaders left in the locker room. The Fever finally had a mix that worked. Veterans with personality and younger stars with energy. Now they've just created a huge leadership vacuum. Sure, Caitlyn Clark is the face of the franchise, but she's not the general manager. It's not her job to fix chemistry issues. It's the front office's job to make sure she has a team worth leading. And the irony here is just wild. The Fever actually have money, but they keep acting like they're broke. They have cap space, sponsorships, and the hottest ticket sales in the league. Yet they're making decisions like a small market team trying to pinch pennies. If you're going to build around Clark in Boston, you need to commit to building around them now. Don't wait around for bargains in February. So fans are already debating which way the Fever are headed. Some think this is just a temporary shakeup, maybe to open up space for better signings, or even a blockbuster trade. Others think it's the beginning of another long rebuild that's just going to waste Clark's early years. And here's the part that really stings. They might both be right, because Indiana doesn't seem to know which side it's on. Are they trying to build a contender right now? Or are they just buying time and waiting for the next draft class? If it's the first option, they're clearly moving backward. If it's the second, they're wasting the best marketing opportunity the league has had in a decade. Let's be crystal clear. Caitlyn Clark's presence alone completely changed the WNBA's economy. Her jersey sales broke records. Her games boosted ratings like crazy. She single-handedly made the Fever relevant again. So when a player like that gets injured, the last thing you should ever do is dismantle the team around her. But here we are. Even other teams are watching this whole thing unfold. Like, what on earth is Indiana doing? You've got players like Lexi Hall and Sophie Cunningham, who are fan favorites and defensive anchors, being treated like afterthoughts. You've got veterans heading to off-season leagues, because they don't even know if they'll have jobs come May. And the front office, they're silent. Not a single statement to calm fans down, or explain their plan. Meanwhile, Coach Stephanie White is left trying to make sense of a roster that could look completely different by training camp. Let's talk about her for a second. White's system works fine on paper, but it has its limit. She can't coach a run-and-gun style when half her team is gone and the rest are rehabbing from injuries. If the Fever don't help her out by bringing in some depth and shooters, it won't matter how good Clark and Boston are. They'll just get outgunned by teams with stronger rotation. Remember, the Aces, Liberty, and Wings aren't just sitting around. They're stacking their rosters, locking up talent, and building chemistry. Meanwhile, Indiana's over here playing musical chairs with contracts. This isn't how you win a title. This is how you frustrate your fan base. Now let's talk about something the front office probably really doesn't want to hear. The CBA situation. Because it's not just player contracts causing all this chaos. The WNBA's entire financial structure is hanging in the balance. If negotiations drag on, free agency will stay frozen, meaning these 4 released players can't officially re-sign, even if they wanted to. So while the Fever are just waiting to figure out who's returning, the rest of the league is preparing their backup plan. And here's where Adam Silver might actually have to step in again, because this situation affects absolutely everyone. The Fever can't finalize deals, the players can't plan their futures, and the league can't even promote next season properly. It's chaos, but it's disguised as just business. And that chaos hits the Fever harder than anyone else, because their entire brand depends on momentum, that huge Caitlyn Clark wave that carried them through to. But momentum fades super fast when fans see headlines like 4 Fever players gone, and team in limbo ahead of free agents. The longer this drags on, the more trust they lose. Not just from players, but from fans, sponsors, and even media outlets that finally started taking the WNBA seriously. Let's also not ignore the bigger question. Is the Fever front office really protecting Caitlyn Clark? Because right now, it honestly doesn't look like it. It looks like they're just gambling that Clark will keep selling out arenas no matter what. But anyone who's watched sports long enough knows that doesn't last forever. Even the biggest stars can't carry losing teams for years without burning out. If Indiana doesn't surround Clark with the right teammates, she'll do what every frustrated superstar eventually does. Look for a way out. She won't say it publicly, but history shows it happen. We've seen it in the NBA, we've seen it in college, and now the WNBA might learn that same lesson the hard way. The front office needs to realize that loyalty isn't automatic. It's earned with effort, direction, and consistency. And fans are absolutely seeing the crap. Comments online are brutal right now. Fans are saying things like, "Here we go again," and "protect Caitlyn at all costs or lose her." You'd think the team would learn from the backlash that hit earlier in the year when Clark took criticism from within the league, and the Fever barely defended her. Instead, they've just doubled down on silence. And that silence is louder than any press release they could put out. Let's be honest, the Fever's success isn't complicated. You don't need crazy analytics or big PR campaign. You just need to keep your core together, keep Clark healthy, and add smart pieces around her. That's it. That's the simple formula. Yet somehow, Indiana keeps trying to reinvent the wheel. They've got Boston, a dominant big who can anchor the paint for the next decade. They've got Clark, an elite scorer, passer, and leader. They've got a fan base that finally cares, and they're still overthinking it. Instead of adding shooters or defensive wings, they're cutting the very players who actually kept them afloat. This isn't chess, folks. It's checkers played blindfolded. And unless something changes super fast, Indiana risks wasting all the progress they made last season. So what happens next? Well, free agency officially opens in early February, if the CBA doesn't delay it again. Until then, Fever fans are just left waiting and desperately hoping the front office actually knows what it's doing. Because one thing's clear, the Caitlyn Clark effect can't save this team forever. At some point, the results have to match the hype. And if this offseason is any indication, the Fever better get serious, or they'll go from a team on the rise to a team that totally blew it faster than anyone expects. So what's your take? Do you think the Fever made the right move by cutting these players? Or are they setting up another disaster before next season even starts? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoy real talk without all the fluff, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe and share. We've got more WNBA updates coming soon. Stay